I don't understand why you're so upset.
No.
No, I have to review it.
No.
I have to review it for the show.
No.
Why are you so upset?
It's an abomination to everything it could have been.
Okay, Jeremy, help me out here.
It's the job of a reviewer. This is the reason I read Catwoman,
Yeah,
No.
I have to...
which was terrible.
Okay. I'm not going to review it.
Thank you. This is Nerdcast.
To the Batmobile. Let's go. Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed. Roger. Ready to move out.
So today on Nerdcast, I'll be reviewing Little Big Planet karting and just that.
And I'll be talking about the Game for Change Festival and new photos released by NASA.
So let's do that right now.
News. The Game for Change Festival is focused on creating positive social impact and creating educational opportunities through video games. With the help of generous stockholders, they help game developers launch games that aim to help society, highlight best practice, and fundraise for new projects. Games fall into a number of different categories, such as civics, human rights, economics, education, environment, empathy, gender, health, and poverty. The winner of this year's Most Innovative Game Award went to Blindside. The game is made by Epicycle and will be available on the Mac, PC, and iOS. This is a 3D audio adventure game that is in a world unseen, based on the personal and true story of the game creator who went through a temporarily blind situation in high school due to a chemistry accident. The game attempts to show the players what it's like to be blind, and unbelievably, it's being praised for its graphics and unique art style. The most significant impact award went to Data Dealer, an online browser game from Cuter Cute Media. This game focuses on the collection, collation, and sale of personal data in order to bring attention to the importance of personal privacy. What is your information worth? Game of the Year went to Quandary, a Mac, PC, and web game put out by the Learning Network. Players shape the future of a space colony while being faced with the ethical issues that arise from obtaining their goals and challenging situations. Through great story and gameplay, Quandary aims to teach civility and ethics via fun. Finally, my personal favorite from the festival, Half the Sky. Half the Sky is one of the first Facebook games to come out of the Games for Change and focuses on the social injustices facing women and children throughout the world. The player starts their journey in India and travels to multiple countries, ending in America, on the way to help meet characters who are facing social injustices. What I love about this game is that players are actually earning charity money for the causes. When players unlock certain achievements, stockholders for this game will donate food, books, and money to various charities that you work with in the game. All of these video games look amazing and serve as proof that video games are changing the world. For more information on the games you've heard about tonight and on Games for Change Festival in general, check out our Facebook page.
Way back in 2010, I started a review blog that had no bearing on where I am today, and one of my first reviews was a nice kid-friendly title called Mod Nation Racer, wherein a player could customize every part of the game, the cart, the driver, and the tracks. What a nearly wonderful idea that was. The thing is, Mod Nation Racer almost worked. It had the creative license to allow players to do whatever they wanted, but it turned out that they wanted to build tracks that either gave them free trophies or were unplayable messes. So, how does Little Big Planet karting compare to a 3-year-old game that did basically the same stuff and fail miserably? And the answer is by being literally better in every possible way. LBP Karting brings us all of that customization and then adds to it by whole degrees of magnitude. Little Big Planet's trademark player-made levels seem to translate just about perfectly into the racing genre, and there's as much to do as far as track design as there was in level design in the original titles. I mean, there are 57 tutorial videos in the track creator, and after looking through all of them, I feel like the player is basically every tool available that the developers did when making the story mode tracks. Which brings us to gameplay. Karting keeps it simple. Karts differ in appearance only, which keeps races as balanced as humanly possible. Plus, racing is only an extremely small part of the overall karting experience. World. Battle arenas appear in a big way and completely rock. And yes, players can make their own battle arenas out of the custom menu. It's pretty sweet. All of this is complemented by the unique storybook style of the Little Big Planet world. The narrator tells bad jokes in a grandfatherly kind of way that is openly lame but endearing enough to get me through 57 tutorials about building things. Not to mention, karting looks exactly like Little Big Planet 2, with exactly the same UI and menu controls, in what is the most prominent display of if it ain't broke, don't fix it I have ever seen. If there's anything to hate about this title, this adorable, adorable little title, it's the industry-crushing microtransactions. By design, the most interesting character, kart, track pieces, they're locked behind the PlayStation Store vault until you fork up for them. They're all purely aesthetic, of course, so it's not necessary to have them if you want to enjoy the game, but they're really awesome, like a Nathan Drake outfit, or, a BioShock costume. You could be a big daddy. My real frustration with this is simply that, once again, DLC has been packaged with the game upon release. And even if I did get this game for free, and you can too if you have a PlayStation Plus account, something about it just feels like crooked business. So what makes the real difference between customizable racing games from 3 years ago and now? Well, hypothetically, audience, it's the moderators. The brave men and women who scour the servers for broken, insane, and inappropriate tracks to assure the best rise to the top, and that the Mario Kart track recreations remain available for all players to enjoy. So I say go, viewers. Log on to your PS3s, download this potentially free racing game, if not, it's $20, and celebrate with me the accomplishments of paid moderators that allow us to search custom tracks without fear. I look forward to seeing what some of these bright young minds can create once they stop making old Mario Kart tracks.
Ghost in the Shell Arise has finally come. This last week, Ghost in the Shell Arise Border Chapter 1 Ghost Pain opened in Japan, earning $369,000. For those of you who don't know, the Ghost in the Shell franchise is a ridiculously famous anime and manga series with a cyberpunk mystery story that you should totally watch or read. Ghost Pain has a standalone story where Major Superior Officer is killed, and it becomes her mission to find out who killed him. But, as always with Ghost in the Shell, things become more complicated. Fans love how the movie is staying true to the original manga, yet still bringing something new. Classic characters are shown in new, but canon lights, and the writers have found even more ways to explore the impact of future technology in respect to murder investigations. Here's the cool part. The first 8 minutes of this movie can be watched in great quality on the Japanese PlayStation channel, but sadly, no subtitles. There's also a link on our Facebook page to the Kotaku website where you can watch the first 8 minutes with captions. Sorry for the poor quality. There is no international release date yet, but the Japanese DVD and Blu-ray will be released on July 26th with wonderful English subtitles.
This one's a heartbreaker. Here's my review of World War Z.
Damn it!
Anyway, so Max Brooks is the son of Mel Brooks, the guy who wrote some of the funniest movies of the late 80s and early 90s. If your parents loved you, you might remember Spaceballs and or Robin Hood Men in Tights. If you were older than a child in the late 80s, welcome. I didn't know you were in our demographic. So, anyway, not to live in his father's shadow, but destined for greatness, the young Max set out to become the world's #1 authority on specific fictional creatures. Max Brooks does zombies, and he's written the Zombie Survival Guide, a sequel to the Zombie Survival Guide, and famously, World War Z. WWZ was an instant bestseller when it came out in 2006, using the backdrop of the zombie apocalypse to discuss the human condition and the geopolitical reactions of countries if fear drove them to act the way they really wanted to act. The book made the fear and desperation real, human, and it really highlighted specific flaws that countries would have to face in the completely realistic scenario that rabies mutated to create near-unkillable infection machines from human corpses. Of course, the movie has none of this. World War Z, the motion picture, is about Brad Pitt solving zombie problems the way only the indestructible Brad Pitt can, for unspecified reasons. The basic plot is that Brad Pitt once had a dangerous but never explicitly stated military-esque job. It's very blurry, that somehow has prepared him for exactly this doomsday scenario. Pitt's old boss calls him and tells him to go solve the zombie thing, because he probably should have been on that already, and then he basically just does that. The movie tries to throw a bunch of red herrings out, like someone else is supposed to fix the infestation thing, but pretty much anyone of importance is either killed or passed over very quickly. Meanwhile, Brad Pitt goes full Ubermensch everywhere. Seriously, whatever this character did for the government before Z-Day, it somehow gave him the foresight to know exactly what he's dealing with and what he needs to do. No learning curve. At one point, he even stops mid-saving his family because he knows he needs to stop and count how long it takes for someone to turn into a ravenous undead from a bite. All the realism that made the book so fulfilling, the tragedy, the humanism, and most importantly, the suspense, just doesn't show up for this movie. If I had to describe this movie's problems in metaphor, which I will, it's that this movie plays with its hand revealed. Its tells, its scares, they're all as predictable as possible, up to and including the ending. It's actually boring, which should be crazy considering that every other scene is a zombie chase scene. But that's actually the problem. There's never any time to care about Brad Pitt or his terrible at surviving family before all hell breaks loose. There just seems to be another mild-mannered, all-American family with Superman as a dad. I knew going in that this wasn't going to be the World War Z movie fans feel the book deserves, including me. Even though with a tad of experimental filmmaking, Hollywood could completely recreate the book. And I get the feeling that that's what the fans really want. Or wanted, if this hasn't completely killed it for the rest of us. I mean, this isn't even an adaptation, and calling it loosely based on the book means that All Dogs Go to Heaven is also loosely based on Cujo. I wish I could say that that was the only problem, but this movie failed to be World War Z, and sharing that title with this movie only makes the flaws more apparent. Even as a generic zombie movie, it comes in at a low grade with no emotional depth or genuine suspense. In order to enjoy this movie, you really need to be some kind of brainless, barely moving human. No, I don't think they're that meta. No.
NASA has just released pictures of the Orion Crew Module mock-up. This is a model of the spaceship that NASA wants to build. This module will be able to hold at least 2 astronauts and sustain them over long trips to asteroids, Mars, or other planets in our solar system. The actual Orion Crew capsule will not make an appearance until 2014 when there is a scheduled test run. The Orion Crew capsule will fly around the moon, a trip lasting several days, and then land back in the Pacific Ocean. If this test run is successful, the sky's the limit. There are even rumors of space stations on Mars. A fun vacation for the whole family.
So now we're going to do Comic Crash, where Jeremy's going to talk about his new out of 10 rating system instead of out of 5. And he's going to talk about a comic book that's about a dog. So we're going to get right. Please don't hit me.
Welcome to Comic Crash. I'm Jeremy Lawton, and I don't really have much to say about myself this week. Marvel's eyeing Vin Diesel. He was called in for an interview about an unknown role. Popular speculation includes The Vision and Thanos. All we know is that Marvel wants Vin Diesel to do something. Speaking of Marvel films, Jim Carrey is speaking out against a film that he recently starred in, Marvel's Kick-Ass 2. Filming concluded a month before the Sandy Hook tragedy, which caused a longtime anti-gun activist to declare that he cannot support the film. Writer Mark Miller was disappointed by this change of heart, but otherwise had nothing but praise for the actor's performance. The ongoing legal dispute between Marvel and Ghost Rider co-creator Gary Friedrich will be decided by a jury this November. A federal judge has ordered the trial regarding the copyright to the long-running Marvel character to start November 4th. And over at DC, next month is the beginning of Trinity War. Despite it being such a huge hyped event all the way back to last May, it only lasts 2 issues of each of the 3 current Justice League titles, Justice League of America, and Justice League Dark, along with 2 issues of Pandora, 1 of Constantine, and 1 or 2 of the Phantom Strangers tie-ins. Red Lanterns number 21. Since the beginning of New 52, Red Lanterns has been 90% horrible, barely clinging to people's pull lists due to the tight-knit nature of Geoff Johns' Green Lantern saga. so I understand the need to resort to a stunt like bringing one of the big four over to the Red Lanterns. And of course it had to be Guy Gardner. But Charles Soule writes a damn good guy, and the reasoning behind everything, except perhaps the vague new mission of the Red Lanterns, makes perfect sense. I think the most impressive thing about this issue is that while we're given a mission for Guy betraying his team, Soule manages to write it in such a way that we're not certain if he's completely gone over the edge or whether he's still working for Hal. And it doesn't compromise the character. 8.5 out of 10. DC's got a new series as well, Batman Superman #1. And this first bit is going to come across as the pettiest complaint, but honestly, I was very underwhelmed by the logo for the series. The old Superman Batman logo did a very artistic job at fusing the thematic symbols of the characters together. Well, this one does the opposite. It's just the words sitting there in the most boring font there could be, with no accessories. It's just dull. It's not eye-catching at all. On the other hand, Jay Lee's artwork is beyond gorgeous, and he's one of the best. His style is arguably museum-worthy, but the focus is a tad imbalanced. His style is suited more to Batman than Superman, and even with the writing, his presence as a character is well over 50%. These are essentially problems only a critic would have complaints with, which I am, but for everyone else, the core is about the enjoyment. And while I really enjoyed the flow of most of the issue, things really gummed up the works with a confusing ending. I didn't even have a problem with the artist switch. It wasn't jarring, and it had story relevance, but the story was already several levels of uncanny, and it made a huge jump in the last few pages. I wanted to give this a higher score. It really read well with a lot of potential, but I can only give this first issue a 6.5 out of 10. Age of Ultron, #10, AI. The numbering for this one-shot is strange. It's an epilogue to the inappropriately titled Age of Ultron event, and a prologue to next month's series Avengers AI. But it did its job. I wasn't exactly sure how I felt about Avengers AI or even Hank Pym as a character, but after this issue, I'm excited and enamored respectively. Mark Waid pulled at my heartstrings like he always does. I'll admit, a lot of my investment in this issue is because it hit so close to home, the dart flew right into the lock on my door. Ant-Man may not be a name that inspires such confidence or popularity as Spider-Man or Wolverine, but I'm going to give this guy a chance now. I guarantee you'll be rooting for the little fellow by the end of this issue. And if you haven't read Age of Ultron and you don't plan to, don't worry. It summarizes all you need to know, which isn't a whole lot in details. This one-shot by itself, 10 out of 10, stunning. Hawkeye is already one of the most innovative, entertaining, and incredibly unique experiences in comics. It's already perhaps the closest thing to an Image series in the main two. It dives so much deeper into innovative territory in this issue, such as the investigation of the recent shocking death being carried out by none other than Lucky, aka Pizza Dog. The entire issue is told through symbols representing the dog's sensitivity to smells and sounds. Dialogue between human characters is blurred aside from keywords the dog knows, like collar and keep, and of course, good boy. This isn't a great issue to start on, but if you're not reading Hawkeye, you're missing out, bro. For achievements above and beyond the normal scope of perfection, I award the rare 11 out of 10 to Hawkeye #11. DC's other newest series this week was Larfleeze #1. If you don't know who Larfleeze is, you probably don't have an inclination to pick this series up, but I implore you to do so. The launch of this new series is part of that new era of the Green Lantern family, and Larfleeze as a character has consistently been a pillar of entertainment in the DC cosmos. And as hilarious as everything is in this issue, the inconsistencies between the visuals and his recounting of his backstory are emotionally devastating. It droned on a bit at times, and the artwork is a bit wild, so overall, a somewhat flawed but highly entertaining 9 out of 10. Morning Glories #28 came out this week. But you've seen me spaz over that series, and every issue was equally amazing. This one was no exception. What I want to talk to you about this week is Nick Spencer's more mainstream series, Secret Avengers, of which issue 5 came out. It's full of the same kind of mysterious and convoluted charm that Spencer has mastered, but seen through a completely different lens with a totally different style. Morning Glories is all about religion and supernaturalism and philosophy, while Secret Avengers is a pinnacle of secret agent style. This issue takes things above and beyond all that's come before, digging deep into the deepest nature of covert espionage possible. And we end off with another 10 out of 10. There was so much great stuff this week. Alongside all that amazing stuff that came out this week, Catwoman also came out, but as you know, it sucked. You didn't read it, and you know it sucked, because you've heard me talk about it. But that's all I've got to say for today. Now we go back to the other two people, Mitch and Angelia, with Nerd Gear.
Do you love Doctor Who? Well, of course you do. And what better way to show that love than an artfully designed t-shirt? ThinkGeek is coming out with exclusive t-shirts that are a must for die-hard fans. With thousands of bits of Doctor Who memorabilia out there, you need something that's different and unique. This first one is based off the famous Beatles cover with some of our favorite characters. I present to you the Abbey Road Doctor Who. The second t-shirt is for all of those fans who mistakenly believe that the 10th, and not the 11th Doctor, is the best. Still a pretty cool shirt, showing the wondrous time and space that surrounds the Doctor, the 10th Doctor Galaxy silhouette.
Are you tired of dirty, sweaty thumbs messing up your gameplay on iPads and tablets? Well, your problems are over with the new RYG thumb slips, which are basically tiny leather gloves for your thumbs with plastic barbells attached. The RYG thumb slips aims to give you better precision on virtual D-pads, but gamer reviews are telling us that these babies help sharpen your moves on pretty much all touchscreens. From Robot Unicorn to Golden Axe 2, you're free to kick ass the way the creators intended.
You ever wish you had a telescope eye like Inspector Gadget? Boom! Done. The DARPA, a group of researchers from Sweden and America, have developed a telescope contact lens. This contact lens is mainly for people suffering from retina damage. By magnifying an AMD patient's vision, light is also magnified, allowing it to spread out and hit parts of the retina that remain intact, thus correcting permanent vision loss. Now, outside of being the cure for blindness in some people, using liquid crystals, these lenses also allow the wearer to switch from normal to magnify vision, thus telescope eye. This will only be released medically at first, but keep an eye out.
The Gainward NVIDIA GTX 760 Phantom has just been released, the newest graphics card that is supposed to outshine all others. The Gainward NVIDIA GTX 760 Phantom has a reworked PCB, factory overclocking, and a massive triple slot cooling system. So basically, this graphics card is a monster, and yet it's still fairly quiet, a great buy for gamers if you can afford it. The GTX 760 Phantom has a retail price of $400, otherwise known as one PS4.
And now it's time for Table Talk, where we'll be talking about our favorite sci-fi movies, what makes a good sci-fi movie, and why ours are better.
I hate you!
This is what you get. Oh.
So welcome to Table Topic. I'm wearing a hat, and today we're going to be talking about our favorite sci-fi movies, why they're good, why we love them, and why you should go see them if you haven't already, which is really a sin. Go see them. Okay, first up for me, one of the movies I absolutely love to this day is the original Alien. It took a basic sci-fi story, converted it into the horror genre we all know and love, which is what made it so popular, but mostly is the fact that it actually has some theme behind it. It's a little dark, but Alien is actually about the mental anguish and trauma of being a rape victim. It's gruesome, it's really dark, and for those of you not looking at it thematically, you can still enjoy it as a general horror movie.
One of mine that I definitely liked was Equilibrium. It's basically Fahrenheit 451 meets The Matrix. So it's got the themes and it's got a lot of the themes from Fahrenheit 451, but taken to a bit of a greater extreme. And I like that as a background to the action, and I have to say the action in that movie was just top notch. And the whole visual style was just fantastic. A combination of bleak and yet showy, kind of like Ultraviolet.
Okay, so one of my favorite sci-fi movies has to be the movie that introduced me to sci-fi movies, which was The Fifth Element. See, when I was about 10, my dad decided that I needed an introduction into sci-fi and manly movies, and The Fifth Element was like the first one he showed me. And The Fifth Element is just so amazing, specifically in scenery and in creating a world, which is something I just love in all movies in general. But I mean, the makeup was top-notch. The acting was wonderful, the various types of species, down to the car, even that weird food stand that would float and come by your apartment window. It just helped you integrate so much into this world. The story was, basic, a giant thing of literally pure evil and destruction coming to destroy it, and the thing that we need to save us all is love. But, I mean, they did it well. It wasn't like one of those crappy things where you're groaning at the end. They actually did it really well in a very unique way that nobody's seen before.
I think that's one of the keys to good sci-fi is the world building in terms of the visual aspects and also a lot of the little details, just showing that it's a future world. A A lot of TV series did this really well. Batman Beyond and Futurama had some fantastic world building in them.
Firefly.
Yes. But another thing is to inject, that's really good is when you inject some really core emotions in it, like WALL-E. WALL-E had a really grand visual style, and yet the heart of that movie was just this love story between two robots. It was just, it had that grand spectacle without needing to go into, convoluted plot, which can still be interesting, but it was this great interpretation of such a simplistic idea, and it was really touching.
It's true. And once again, we've got the idea of, a full, well-rounded world. You've got a whole society on a spaceship.
Of fat people.
Yeah, of fat people. Deliciously little fat people just bouncing around up there in their hover chairs with
Those
their hover
babies
TVs.
were adorable.
Yeah. And that gave us a whole world to immerse to. And even before then, we get to see Earth in the future, which even though it's desolate since it's Earth and we connect with it, we love it. We already love every instance of that world.
It's gorgeous because WALL-E built all those towers of trash.
Regardless
Yeah.
of the fact that WALL-E cannibalizes the other units like his,
Like all of them.
so that he can keep himself alive immortally. WALL-E is a living Frankenstein's monster.
Why would
The
you make
movie
me
is
realize
ruined for you
that?
now.
It's okay. But no, I mean, a lot of sci-fi movies are almost just there to basically push the same message you've heard before in a new way so you can actually hear it. Like, look at Equilibrium. I mean, that's like you were talking about Equilibrium. It's the very basic emotion of we need to feel things. Yes, pain sucks, but you've got to get over it. And that's very relevant, especially in the time of pills and everything else. Or even the new War of the Worlds. While that was not a good movie by any means, one thing that was really cool about it was how it was very focused on survival, and that's what they wanted it to be. Not necessarily on the plot, but how would somebody really act when you have to keep your family safe, when you don't have a lot of choices. I mean, one of my favorite scenes in sci-fi is from that crappy movie where they're hiding in this underground place, and it's Tom Cruise and his daughter, and this one other guy, and the one other guy goes crazy, and he starts just like singing and screaming, and Tom Cruise just goes out there, he's like, you have to be quiet, you don't understand what I'm going to have to do, but if you're not quiet, I have to keep her safe. And then he goes and has his daughter just like sing with her, cover your ears, and all you hear is her singing. You're watching her singing, and then you just hear hacking sounds and screams, and they sing back next to her, and they're more or less just rocking. It's a really deep scene, and it's all because you could see that through the alien theme.
It's true. And by these criteria we've set out, that means we can already pick out some of the great sci-fis of our era.
True.
I mean, I talked about aliens, but that's really not our era anymore, is it? We are youngins, and that is sad. But it does still leave some really great stuff. I think The Matrix, the original, it has all of these elements. It's got amazing world building, 2 different, distinct worlds. It has a message, which is there. It's really a 90s grunge message, but it fits the times. And most importantly, it had the action sequences that utilized, at that time, state-of-the-art CG. I don't think it really holds up nowadays, to keep the audience enthralled. As far as world building, also, the other 2 parts of that trilogy that no one likes to pretend exist, they were terrible, they were slogging and boring, but they did fully complete the world and actually make it much more complex, which gives us so many more fan theories, like the real world outside of the Matrix is just a donut layer of more Matrix, where if you get pulled out of the Matrix like a stopgap program, so the robots are still controlling everything. Dark, but sci-fi has the means to be dark in a dystopian society where everyone's controlled by robots.
Another great movie that is definitely of our time is Serenity. I mean, even without, I saw that movie before I ever watched Firefly, and I loved it because, I mean, it is Joss Whedon, so the characters are phenomenal. The acting was great. They were even able to sort of connect with the people of the time by having that really dry, random humor that everybody knows through the internet now. But I mean, the Reavers, that's a terrifying monster because it's not like, oh, it's a giant alien. No, those are people who have gone insane. And then what do you do with that kind of moral choice of we have to somehow stop the Reavers, but at the same time expose this because this is a horrible injustice against humanity. So and especially given the whole big government kind of feel that a bunch of conspiracy theorists are spouting about now, it definitely hit home for a lot of people in our time.
I have to break away with you a tiny bit because I think I've realized my favorite just sci-fi iteration is the manga and anime Blame.
I've
Where-
never heard of that.
Haven't seen it.
Well, basically, it has that whole like bleak dystopian visual style gone to beyond an extreme. These machines have been building this thing called the city, which is basically layer upon layer of mechanical whatnot on every level of the earth going outwards. They strip mine entire other planets to build it. And this thing is so big that as far outwards as it is, the moon is inside of the city. And there's all these different, subcultures and across this grand thing because they're not programmed to stop. So they need to find a person with the net terminal genes to stop them. Otherwise, they just keep replicating and building outwards. And everyone's pretty much lost hope across these like layers that are just, eons apart from each other practically.
So like humans live inside the layers.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
had to suck.
Different. It's insane. Nobody knows how. Few people in there know how large it is, or nobody's even seen like real land in like thousands of years. It's
Or
just
real
got this
land.
intense, bleak style, but it pretty much summarizes every great bit of science fiction aspect that there is.
Well, I feel like there's one aspect to science fiction that's always going to be the concrete layer. And for me, that always seems to be conspiracy. There's a pretty big constant that, the major corporations are evil and corrupt. That's how they got so big. That there's a king or a church or a government that's out to get you. That's why I think V for Vendetta qualifies as a sci-fi movie. It's got that level of conspiracy, tad bit of future in it, and it was relevant to the day, especially when it came out. So with that layer of conspiracy in mind, even, like I said, Alien with its horror genre and horror base was still based all on a conspiracy between the Weyland Corporation.
Just real quick before we have to wrap up, I would have to disagree that what that main core is about isn't necessarily conspiracy, even though that's tied in and it's part of it. It's about what us as humans could do wrong. All science fiction is more or less this giant warning of being like, look, you're good people deep down, but be careful. I mean, that's why science fiction is so great. It always makes you think. I've rarely seen a science fiction movie that doesn't make me, have to think about something.
I think that pretty much puts a cap on it and says everything that needs to be said.
I think that's good. So, remember your sci-fi, be better people, and remember that the future is out to get you.
Watch every movie we've talked about.
Don't let the machines take you over.
And you just watched Nerdcast.
You did.
Next week, dual review time of the Deadpool video game.
That's right, Deadpool. And I apologize, Batman Incorporated number 12 did not come out this past week. It comes out next week. So I'll review it next episode.
Plus, Angelia will be back with a lot of crazy cool nerd gear, and then we will try our best to impress all of you.
Nerdcast.
It destroyed everything in the book. So many great things that could have come out of it.
Why you
Freaking
have
Battle
to tell
of
people?
Yonkers. No, you don't get to talk. You don't get to talk.
That's true, I wasn't part of this.
No, the Battle of Yonkers. The freaking quarantine of Israel. Like the good quarantine of Israel. Just everything that they left out. And you did that review. You gave credence to that movie. How can you live with yourself?
I review movies.
You've lost these. You've lost your privileges.
I need those for looking!
No.
Those are my looking
No.
ones!